So Nope was my second most anticipated movie of 2022 after The Batman. I have loved both of Jordan Peele's movies. I know mostly everyone seems to love Get Out, and Us kind of had a mixed reaction. I was one of those that I actually liked it more the more I kind of sat and marinated on it, what he was trying to say. But I have to give a disclaimer on this movie. And I think this is really important to anyone who's wanting to go and watch it. Do not go into this movie looking for Get Out or Us because it is not that. It is a pretty big departure from his first two movies. And so I think if you walk in going just kind of expecting a big spectacle, this is kind of his, I've seen a lot of people talk about like this is like his Jaws, his kind of love or homage to Steven Spielberg. I think if you go in expecting that, I think you'll enjoy this movie quite a bit. If you go in expecting another Get Out or Us that has a lot of really, really deep themes and stuff, and don't get me wrong, there are some, but I think you may walk away being slightly disappointed. And I say that because when the credits rolled, I sat there and I'm not gonna lie, I was slightly like, I don't know how to feel about the movie. Not that it was bad by any means. It was a really good movie just on its own. But I think I brought in a level of expectation. I was kind of trying to look into every single scene. Oh, what's the symbolism here? What is he trying to say? And I think in some of the scenes that I was analyzing, I think there was really nothing there besides just what was on this screen. And I think because of that, it affected the way my experience was. Now, with that being said, I walked out of the movie and I was with my wife, and I said, I don't know how to feel about it overall. And I was honestly a little speechless. And it was funny because the more and more time I sat with it, the more I was like, okay, now some of those themes, some of those things are starting to click in my head. But the more I sat there, the more I think I realized that there is some underlying motif, some symbolism, some themes that he's trying to get across. It's just not quite as clear as I think Get Out and I think even Us was. So let's talk about what works. The acting is phenomenal. Daniel Kaluuya is someone who I had never really known before Get Out, but I have loved him ever since. Here, he brings a quiet presence to him. When looking at him, you can tell that, I think he suffered quite a bit of grief. He suffered a lot in his life. And I think it's really hard to pull off a character who's quiet, who doesn't emote a whole lot, but can still bring kind of a power to the screen. And I think he did that really, really well here. Many of the scenes that he's in, it's just kind of him looking up into the sky or looking off into the distance. There's still a weight to his performance that I really, really appreciated. I think the standout for most people will be Keke Palmer, and she brought a great energy to this movie, and it really was really good in contrast with Daniel Kaluuya's character, because while he's a little bit more stoic, a little quieter, she's very energetic, she's very bubbly, she brings a lot of energy to the screen, and honestly, she brought quite a few of the laughs as well. Another thing I think this movie did very, very well was it balanced humor with kind of the weight and a little bit more of the seriousness of the movie. But it really rode that balance well. It never went too far into the comedy to where it's taking you out of the things that are happening in this movie. Jordan Peele kind of laid in humor at really nice points to kind of get a little laugh out of the audience to kind of, lighten it up quite a bit before taking us back down into a lot of the, if you want to call it horror elements, which leads to my next point. This is not a horror movie. There were definitely scenes that had me kind of on the edge of my seat, like making me feel a little uncomfortable. We know that there is something in the sky that Daniel Kaluuya and his sister who own this horse ranch, they keep seeing, but it's not a clear view. I would say that this movie is again closer to a little bit more kind of sci-fi action, more so than a typical horror, kind of like what Get Out and even Us were. Jordan Peele is still in my top 2 or 3 favorite directors working now because I think his movies are so unique. Like I'm starting to understand what Peele's vision and kind of his style of movie making is. But when you look at Get Out versus Us versus Nope, they're all so unique. They're all incredibly ambitious. And if nothing else, even if you walk away from this movie not caring for it a whole lot, you have to say it is a spectacle. It is worth watching on a big screen and it is very ambitious. This movie is gorgeous, guys. If there's one recommendation I can give, if you're someone who enjoys seeing beautiful cinematography, this might be his best looking movie. The outdoor shots are gorgeous. They're never too dark. You always it's beautifully lit in a way where it's still, you can tell it looks very natural, but you can always see exactly what's going on because a lot of what's happening in this movie, especially in the first two acts, happen at night. The one thing I would also expect going to this movie is while I was engaged the entire time, I have seen some people online talking about how it felt maybe like two different movies. The first act and a half of this movie, it's a very slow start, and then the ending just kind of picks up to this giant crescendo. The ending, you're either in or you're not. As far as the movie was concerned, I was in. I think I let my expectations of wanting something closer to Get Out hinder my viewing on first glance. But again, like the more I sat on it, the more I enjoyed this movie. My one thing that I'm still trying to understand, there is a little bit of a subplot that takes place with a TV show tragedy that happens in the past. It's an effective scene. It was definitely horrifying in a certain way when I was watching what was taking place. It definitely gives some context to some other things. But at the end of the day, I still wonder, like, what exactly is its kind of perfect piece in this story. Not that it's a bad piece. I'm not saying it should have been taken out, but I'm still trying to understand how it fits perfectly into this puzzle or into this narrative of what this movie is. I know a lot of the questions are going to be like, oh, where does it rank for you on the scale of Jordan Peele movies right now? It's a little too early for me to tell. If I had to rank it, I think Nope would be right under Us for me. But I think this is a movie that upon second and third and fourth viewing, I think I'll enjoy it more. I think Nope is definitely a recommendation. I think you could really love it, or you could maybe walk out a little bit disappointed. And I think that's just purely based on your interests and kind of what your viewing experience is like. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested, I'm going to use the YouTube lingo. Like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I'm super excited to get on this journey and hope you'll come along with me. Thanks, guys.